Northeast Mississippi Rewind for week 9 of the high school football season. I'm Brad Locke, assistant sports editor for the Northeast Mississippi Daily Journal, joined by my boss, John L. Pitts. Thank you, John, for joining me. Man, a big night tonight, man. The big story, obviously, is Shannon going down, the Daily Journal's #1 large school, losing to Itawamba AHS 29-28. Had a couple other big upsets, John. Had Starkville pulling one off, and also Moorville, a bit of an upset, but they put themselves in a position to make the playoffs. But the big story again was Itawamba going to Shannon and pulling out that 29-28 win. I was there for about 3/4 of that game.
Did you have the sense heading into this that potentially that was an outcome that might, in the way these two teams matched up, did it seem like Itawamba might present Shannon with some problems?
I knew Itawamba was better than maybe people were giving them credit for, because they got a pretty solid defensive line. They've got some great skill guys on offense. And then when I got out to the field tonight and saw how muddy it was, and I figured that could be a bit of an equalizer, and it was. Michael Ledbetter, the Shannon quarterback, did not have a good game. Turned kind of into a bit of a running game for both teams, and I think that favors Itawamba, because they got some good running backs and a quarterback that can run well. Brett Jeffcoat, he had 3 rushing touchdowns, and Deshaun McGoy had the go-ahead touchdown with, I think, 1:40. That's what killed them. But Brett Jeffcoat, who also kicks for Itawamba, hit his extra point. He just doesn't miss, and that was the big difference tonight for Itawamba. I don't have any numbers right here in front of me on Jeffcoat. Actually, I do. Jeffcoat had the 3 touchdown runs, and so he accounted for 23 points, including his extra point kicks. Had a pretty fair night passing the ball. Had some big passes on that winning drive for the Indians. So huge win. That clinches the Region 1-4A title for Itawamba. Shannon was unbeaten coming into this game, so that's the first loss for the Red Raiders. And before this game, Coach Chad Cook of Shannon told me that he thought Itawamba might be better than West Point. And now West Point is a team that Shannon beat in the season opener 36-35. And West Point, our #2 ranked large school, is now 8-1. They've won 8 straight since that season opening loss. But Itawamba, unranked, by the way, they show that they are right up there with the best of them in 4A.
Do you get the sense that as you talk to coaches as the week goes on now that field conditions may have played, and a couple of other stories that'll be in the Saturday newspaper, it seemed like field conditions and those things came up as a topic of conversation.
Yeah, I think it was that way at the Moorville game. Like the coach said, Coach Austin, it's the same field for both teams, but it seemed to affect Kasuth a little bit more of the turnovers. And Moorville has a good running attack, and so they used that well to their advantage, and got a big win over Kasuth tonight. So that's one of the other big games, 1-3A. So if they beat North Pontotoc next week, that puts them in as the #4 seed. The Troopers have not made the playoffs since 2002, and got a new coach in Kevin Austin, so this would be just huge for Moorville, big step forward. The only downside, I think they would draw either Louisville or Winona in the first round. We'll get to the division races in just a moment, but big win for Moorville at home. Going back briefly to that Shannon game, some other stuff I wanted to talk about. It was senior night for Shannon, final regular season home game. Romero Miller, the former Ole Miss quarterback, had his number retired. He led the Raiders to the 1996 3A state championship. So it was a big night for Shannon. You wonder if maybe they got a bit distracted, but I knew coming in that they had some vulnerabilities. They're not the toughest defensive team. People have scored on them. New Albany put 41 on them. West Point put 35 on them. And to be honest, Coach Cook has admitted this, they haven't played the toughest of schedules besides out of division besides that West Point game. So they had a bit of a stretch there where they weren't playing real tough competition week in, week out. Itawamba, coming off a big win over Tishomingo last week, was able to get back up and get this big win and clinch the division. They get Pontotoc next week. Once again, great game by Brett Jeffcoat. Good job by the defense. They had to hold Shannon there in the final minute and a half or so to come up with a win. And the big key, I thought, was Itawamba getting ahead early. Shannon has that quick strike offense. The Raiders, that they've been known to score in 2 or 3 plays. Tonight, Itawamba went ahead 15-0, and I think that was the huge, big confidence booster for them. I mean, Shannon came back and tied it 15 all at the half, but I think by that point, Itawamba knew they could hang, and they went back ahead. in the third quarter, then Shannon tied it up, and then Shannon went ahead. But once Itawamba knew it was in the game and could establish the run, that was the big turning point for the Indians tonight.
Did Romero Miller look like maybe he could take a few snaps for the Mudcats in the
Yeah, Romero looks good. You know, he still looks like he did in college. So working at a bank in
I'm jealous of him then.
Me too. Yeah, he looks good. So that was nice to see Romero out there. New state for the game, but tough outcome for the Raiders. But you know, them and Itawamba and West Point, I expect them all to be contenders for the North Half title in 4A. So I think we got a good shot of getting one of those three down to Jackson. Another big win tonight in 5A, Starkville coming up with a huge win over Olive Branch, 14-7. And that puts the Yellow Jackets in Regional 1 5A now at 4-1. They travel to South Panola next week and try to stop that, I guess it's a 69-game winning streak now by the Tigers. So Starkville's got a shot to win the division and beat the streak. Again, a big win for them. Coach Lee has kind of gone to a running game the past few weeks. The passing game was not very good for them at the beginning of the year. So the Starkville comes up with a huge win tonight against, again, Olive Branch, which I think was ranked number 2 in the state in 5A. Pat Shedd, the last 2 weeks, has had 315 yards and 4 touchdowns. And tonight, 191 yards on the ground for Starkville as a whole. So Yellow Jackets figured that something out, and that might, it might work against South Panola. We'll see. Division races now, John. I know we're running short on time here. We had some teams wrap up division titles tonight. I believe West Point in 4A wrapped up that one. Itawamba again with the 1-4A title in hand. Going down to Region 2-2A, Yapora beat Bruce in a battle of teams who were unbeaten in division play. Yapora with that win, and they clinched the title. And I believe East Webster now has 1-1A well in hand. And also in the Academies District 3A, Winona Christian defeats Hebron Christian 48-0, clinching the title there.
It was a kind of tough for Bruce there. I know both of Yapora's touchdowns came on turnovers, and they also, I think, held Bruce's leading rusher under 200 yards. So.
Well, yeah, he came in, Richard Freelon, a 214-yard average coming in. Only had 172 tonight. He had a 70-yard touchdown run, which is all the points Bruce managed. Figured that would be a real low-scoring slugfest, and it was. So Yapora remains unbeaten. As far as next week, got some big games going to decide some division titles. We mentioned South Panola Starkville in 1-5A. In 2-4A, Clarksdale visits Oxford. Clarksdale, I believe, now is 5-0 in the region. Oxford 4-1 with a big win tonight. And also next week in 1-3A, Ripley and Boonville. Ripley, I believe, is 5-0. Boonville 4-1. So the winner of that one gets the top seed. And 2-3A, these teams not in our coverage area, but Winona and Louisville both 5-0 in region, so they'll match up next week. In Region 1-2A, Walnut still undefeated at 9-0, and also undefeated in Region 1-2A, as is Baldwin. They match up next week in Baldwin to decide that one. And I think that's it for the division races. So a bit of a shake-up tonight, John, with some of these races and some of these upsets tonight. It's just going to be more fun next week. The last of the regular season for the 2A, 3A, and 4A schools, 1A and 5A, they get one more week, November 9th, before the playoffs. Real quick, the 5 stars for tonight, John, if we wrap this thing up. Jeremy Cannon, the New Albany running back, he's had some good games. He had 260 yards tonight in a win against Saltillo. Brett Jeffcoat, we mentioned that for Itawamba, had the 3 touchdown runs in the upset. Brandon Lawrence for Calhoun City scored 3 touchdowns on offense and had 3 interceptions on defense in a big win over Smithville. Jimmy Young with a big night there for Moorville. He had 203 total yards, 160 on the ground, and I believe he had 3 touchdowns in all. And Jacob Sesma, Walnut, ran for 165 yards and on 14 carries and 2 touchdowns in a big win over Hamilton. So
we keep hearing that Sesma's name.
Jacob Sesma, he's good. He's a big kid, could run well. Brandon Speck was at that game tonight, and he was very impressed with Sesma. He's the real deal, I think, and I believe so is Walnut. And they'll play Baldwin next week again. John, thanks for joining me. Thanks to you for joining us from Northeast Mississippi Rewind. Join us again next week. Lots more good football action in store.